If you live in a mild winter climate, your garden should not end with summer. You have the opportunity of growing a fall garden that thrives throughout the fall and winter months all the way into early spring. Whereas gardeners who live in cold climates can't even think about planting until late winter or early spring because their fall season isn't long enough for the crops to mature. However, if you follow that same timeline of planting in an area like Zone 9 of California, you're likely going to face a lot of challenges. If you plant your cool season crops in early spring, there might be some crops that do okay, but the majority of the crops are going to bolt and head to seed. And that is because there are not enough cool days left in spring for those crops to fully mature. And this is something I hear all the time from gardeners. They will reach out to me feeling defeated because they can't have success with cool season crops. But more often than not, it has nothing to do with the gardener. It simply has to do with planting during the wrong season. Let me know in the comments if you've ever experienced cool season crops that have just bolted and went to seed before ever even getting a harvest. I know I have. But the great thing is that with the proper timing, you can have success. So in today's show, I'm going to be sharing how to time your fall planting, some common differences between cool and warm season crops, as well as why fall is my favorite time of the year to grow garden. But before we dive in, I want to share about an event that I'm hosting that's called the Fall Vegetable Gardening Summit. It's going to help you grow your best fall gardening season yet. And we have 20 plus speakers teaching on various topics from preserving late summer harvest to improving soil health to specific fall gardening strategies. And so if you just head to the show notes below, you'll be able to grab your free ticket or get on the wait list if registration isn't quite open yet. So welcome to today's show. I'm so excited to talk with you on the topic of fall gardening. If we've never met, my name is Audrey Crawford, and I am a gardener in Zone 9 in the Central Valley of California. Unfortunately, the fall garden is often a missed opportunity for so many gardeners. Right now, we are all dying for a break from this hot summer heat, and it's likely that the last thing on your mind is planting yet another garden. It's probably pretty likely that you're just looking forward to the end of summer and being able to enjoy being outside again. But I want to encourage you to plant a fall garden because it's so much more enjoyable than a summer garden, and the number of crops that you can grow is truly endless. The most important thing is timing. And this is where most gardeners get it wrong, and that is because there is no exact planting date for each crop. Planting dates vary by each individual state, and then they vary between climates within states, and even sometimes they vary year to year in the same exact place. For example, this last spring was a really cool spring season for us, and I didn't plant my spring garden until late April and early May for many of the crops. Whereas other years in the past, when we had warmer springs, I planted in early March. So your planting dates are always going to vary, so use your planting dates as guidelines, but not set in stone planting dates. So once you look at your growing conditions for that exact season, you need to then look at the growing conditions for each of the various crops that you want to grow. And don't worry, I'm going to help you figure that out. So let's start with a quick example of how to plan this out and how to apply it to your garden. So say I want to grow Brussels sprouts in my garden. Brussels sprouts are a long season crop that take 90 to 120 days to mature. And the plants grow best in cool weather with average temperatures from 50 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which, by the way, is pretty standard for all cool season crops. But Brussels sprouts are also very hardy and can withstand low temperatures down to 25 to 28 degrees without any issues. But once the temperatures are consistently in the 70s and above, it's going to trigger the plants to bolt and head to seed. So this means for 3 to 4 months, the weather needs to pretty much be below 70 degrees. And in many areas of Zone 9, for example, it's not uncommon for the month of February to warm up with consecutive days in the 70s and above. So this means to be safe, I need to plant in September or early October so that they have a long enough cool season to mature. However, there are shorter season crops like radishes that mature quickly in as early as 25 to 30 days. So these crops can be planted all throughout fall, winter, and even early spring if we're still experiencing cool temperatures because that crop matures so quickly. But now back to Brussels sprouts. If I plant them in January, it's very unlikely that there are going to be 90 to 120 days below 70 for them to mature in the ideal conditions. So that is why, in order to have success with a crop that's a long season crop like Brussels sprouts, you have to plant it in the fall or you're never going to have success in late winter or early spring because there just isn't enough cool season days left in the season for those crops to mature. So as you are planning out your planting dates, this is what you need to know. You need to know the season length, meaning if the crop is short, half, or a long season crop. which then lets you know on average how long it will take from planting time to get a harvest. As a rule of thumb, cool season crops that have a long growing season should always be planted in the fall, and these crops typically take anywhere from 90 to 120 days to mature, sometimes longer. And so you won't have enough time in the spring to get a harvest from any cool season crops that are a long season crop. A few common examples include Brussels sprouts, garlic, and leeks. Half-season crops are a bit quicker to mature. They usually take 50 to 80 days to mature, and you'll have the best success planting these crops in the fall, but you may be able to find success planting in late winter, possibly early spring, just depending on the weather for that year. But if the spring days start warming up, it's pretty likely that these crops are going to bolt and head to seed before the crop fully matures. A few examples include broccoli, cauliflower, and kale. And then we have short season crops, which are way quicker to mature. They usually take anywhere from 25 to 60 days on average, and these are the best cool season crops to experiment with in late winter and early spring. Because they mature so quickly, it's very likely that you'll be able to get a harvest before the crop bolts and heads to seed. But you should also plant them all throughout fall, because fall is just a great season to grow a garden. A few common short season crops include radishes, lettuce, and turnips. So if you've ever struggled with cool season crops, I hope that this helps clear up some confusion. A huge pet peeve of mine is when I search the internet for information on growing various crops, and it simply just states plant on a specific date or a specific month without giving any other information, such as to consider your climate or to consider how mild your winter is, the crop's days to maturity, basically all the information that's actually important that will help you have success. And unfortunately, it's just pretty common to find vague or generic advice on the internet. It's not always going to be specific to you and your area. So my goal with this podcast is to share very relevant information for gardeners in Zone 9. And now that you know what information is needed to plan out when to plant your fall garden, now it's time to start planning what you actually want to grow. And even though we're still in summer, you should start ordering your seeds soon so that they have plenty of time to arrive before it's time to plant. So I have put together a list of some of my most favorite fall vegetables to grow, and if you head to the show notes below, you can grab it for free. And now it's time to go order your seeds and start preparing your garden, and don't forget to sign up for the Fall Vegetable Gardening Summit. It is going to be the perfect event to help jumpstart your success this fall season. The links to everything mentioned today will be in the show notes below. Have a great day, and I will see you in the next episode.